All right, hey everybody. So we announced this morning that the Rift core or the Rift platform software is actually coming out of beta today. And the thing that's really exciting to us on the home team about that is that it means that all of the new features that we're bringing to home reach our entire audience, not people who are just opted into the beta. And the other thing that unlocks that's really valuable for us is that it makes it worthwhile for us to build developer services so that you can also reach the entire Rift platform. So we're excited to work with you on the future of home. And so let me do some introductions first. Are my slides not up yet? Let's see. Are we able to? OK, here we go. All right, so that's me. I'm Brandon Dillon. I'm product manager on the home team, and I help kick the project off. You're also going to meet Nancy, who is also a product manager on the team specifically focused on developer services. And she has a background in product marketing in Oculus, so she's like very experienced at helping developers make their experiences shine on our platform. And then you're going to meet with Lizzy, who's a software engineer on our team. She's super smart, and she actually knows how all this stuff works. And so here's our agenda for the day. I'm going to start off by talking about sort of like the history of home and how we got to where we are today. Nancy's going to talk about what our roadmap looks like going forward. And then Lizzie's going to come up and actually get into the nitty-gritty implementation details about how you can integrate with these services. And then we'll have time at the end for feedback and questions. But let's start by going back in time a bit. So this is actually what home looked like 2.5 years ago when we launched the Rift. This is also actually what home looked like on Gear VR because it was a cross-platform app that we ran on both experiences built in Unity. And so we tried to build something that balanced the needs of both Rift and Gear VR. But this was a challenge for both platforms because the Gear VR team had to deal with the thermal and battery challenges of running a Unity app. And then the Rift team had to be very careful to make sure that anything that we added to home scaled gracefully to the input and performance constraints of Gear VR. And this actually got a lot more challenging over time, particularly when we shipped Touch. So Touch has great tracking and fancy sensors that let us know when you're pointing and gesturing and stuff. And developers were leveraging it to build these really compelling experiences where it felt like the controllers melted away and that you just had your hands in VR. But because we had to make sure that what we were building in home scaled gracefully to Gear VR, we could really only use it as a fancy laser pointer because that was the thing that was compatible with gaze and tap. And so what we decided to do is actually just build dedicated system software for both platforms and pull them apart. And John Carmack actually led the initiative to write the new system software stack for Gear VR that we now also use on Oculus Go. And it's hyper-focused on performance and visual clarity and battery consumption. It's exactly what you want for mobile VR system software. And on the Rift team, we started building Core 2.0, which was this opportunity to add functionality that you can only achieve because you had the full capabilities of a PC. And so the first thing that we actually decided to do with the extra horsepower was to build Oculus Dash. And the goal was to give you access to your system UI from anywhere. No more context switching back to home to have to do things like check your notifications or launch an app from your library. And Dash also has this really nice virtual desktop implementation, so you have access to your native PC apps wherever you are in VR. But it had this interesting impact on home, which is that when you take away the system UI and make it so you can bring it up anywhere, home changes from this space that was sort of like this purpose-built space to accommodate the system UI hanging there to being just the first place that you landed in VR. And it didn't have to be the UI room anymore. It could really be anything. And so we had to think about what we wanted that space to be. So let's take a step back even further in time to before we shipped the Rift. I actually joined Oculus about 4 years ago to do multiplayer prototyping. And these were very early days. We had a couple of dev kits. And we figured there would be something interesting about multiplayer in VR. But there weren't a lot of multiplayer experiences at the time. So in order to figure it out, we actually had to go exploring and build our own prototypes. And I'm going to show you 2 very early prototypes that were pretty crude, but were informative for us. So the first thing that I built was this thing called Robot Game Night. And this was just us playing with really abstract representations of avatars that were tracked accurately to the headset. And we were surprised to find that even when you reduce the representation of the person to these shiny box people, that because they were powered by your actual hands and head movements, the experience that you got in multiplayer was that these avatars felt like they were embodied by the person. So you really got a sense for their body language and personality in a way that you didn't in multiplayer games beforehand. And so we took this work, and then we actually dovetailed it into this other project that we were doing called Toybox, which was originally this input prototype that was like a playground for us to help develop the touch controllers. And Toybox is a blast single player, but it was really uniquely fun when you could actually get in there with somebody else and actually feel like you were in the same room playing together. And this caused us to develop a couple of convictions about social VR. The first is that like we could actually build controllers that gave you this true sense of hand presence. And the second was that when you took that and you added heads and you added multiplayer, that you could actually deliver social presence, the feeling that you're actually in VR in a space with somebody else. And the other experiment that we were building that was sort of contemporaneous to this effort was this like simple VR chat app that I was using as a test bed. And at the time, I used Facebook login just as a really easy way to bootstrap the multiplayer experience. So I didn't have to build login servers and stuff for my simple experiments. But because I was logged into Facebook and I had this little prototype VR living room to play with, on a lark, I realized I could like ask for access to your photos in your Facebook feed and sort of populate the environment with that content. And my Facebook feed is full of pictures of my dog, who's this little weirdo. His name is Kuma. He's very strange, and he's kind of my muse. And I use him in like pretty much all of the prototypes that I built. So they always make me chuckle. There's a lot of 2D quads of Kuma through my early work at Oculus. That isn't particularly interesting on its own, other than a laugh. But one of the things that was really unique that we realized is when you actually feed that content into the space and integrate it there, there's something subtle that happens, which is that these images don't feel like just 2D quads integrated into the environment. They actually feel like photos that are built into the space. And there's something subtle going on, which is that this environment is light mapped, which means that it has physically accurate lighting inside of it. And so instead of that 2D quad, what it felt like is I went down to the frame store and got a bunch of blown up pictures of my dog and then brought them up and then hung them in my apartment. And that's not something I would ever do in real life. I don't know if you've ever priced a custom frame before, but it's inordinately expensive, and it would be several of orders of magnitude more expensive than the dog was. The thing that I realized actually is I really liked this environment. I would actually just go hang out in this environment to relax because I just liked the sensation of being in this space that was very personal to me. And I didn't actually ever get around to implementing the multiplayer part. The thing that was that we sort of developed a conviction around here is that a VR environment actually can be just as, or maybe even more impactful than a real life environment, especially if it's a place that you feel like you own that's very personal to you. And so that brings me back to the new home. So our goal was to make it a space, we could do anything with it, but what we wanted to do with it was make it a space that felt more literally like your VR home, that you could customize, make your own, and share with other people. And so there's kind of three major areas that we focus on the team. The first is just customization. One of the things that touch actually really helps us with here is that because you have access to your hands, it's just easier and more pleasant to make 3D space customization accessible and fun. And we've also been working on a suite of tools that let you import your own assets into here, either from VR creation tools like Medium or elsewhere. The next major focus area for us is social. We actually shipped home originally just a single player mode. And the first question we got from everybody was how can we invite our friends? And getting into VR multiplayer is actually kind of hard right now. There's a lot of taking your headset on and off and having to use different communication tools on your PC and on your phone. And a lot of trying to get into an app and kind of muddling around before you actually get into a multiplayer session with somebody. And we've added some basic multiplayer functionality to Home, but our goal is to make that easier by making Home a great place to meet up and then go off on VR journeys together right in the core of the system software. And then our third area of focus is actually just leveraging the platform better. So this is a fun thing that we implemented when we launched. It was just these little cartridges for the games in your library. You put it in this thing, it pops up a little virtual rift. You put it on, and it teleports you into the app. We built this mostly because we thought it was funny. It was kind of delightful to do, and we sort of expected it to be a one and done interaction in the space. But the thing that surprised us is actually these cartridges and boxes are by far our most popular decorations in Home. These are the things that people like putting in their space. And in retrospect, it makes sense, right? It's natural for your prized possessions in VR to be the things that you collect from the VR experiences on the platform. And so this is a place where we're actually really excited to work with our development community to make Home a space that is more personal, more related to the stuff that people love to do in VR. And so we're investing in all of these areas. And then I'm going to hand it over to Nancy to talk about the specifics.
Thank you so much, Brandon. So we're super excited about the next evolution of Home with the full launch of Core 2.0 and the Rift platform. So let's talk a little bit about what that means for you specifically in your app. So when we think about building new features for home, we're really focused on ways that not only make for a magical user experience, but we're also really focused on building things that help you in our development community. So there's a lot of different kinds of questions we ask. We think about, how can we help with better app engagement? Or what about player retention or awareness and marketing? So in the last year, I spent almost 100 hours meeting with developers like you every single week to figure out how we could grow and market their apps. And through this process, we actually found a lot of different areas where we felt like we could help from a product and from a platform standpoint. So one of the first areas of opportunities was enabling ways for you guys to be able to customize home. So earlier this summer, we released support for user-generated content to help you decorate home. And so what we saw is that people could import models of their own creation, some of them directly from Oculus Medium. And here's an example of what one person put together. So Raz loves Medium, and he's imported tons and tons and tons of sculptures into his own home, and it's absolutely stunning to see. So all of this really helped us lay the groundwork for what we announced today, custom developer items. This allows you to upload awesome objects unique to your game or your experience that allows you to tie all these things to achievements or to user activity. So we know a ton of you have already implemented achievements, but for those of you who are new, we're going to talk a little bit about how that current system works. So when you first set up an achievement, our platform services will take care of pretty much everything. They'll track and manage all this for you and your players. When an achievement is unlocked, then the platform displays a toast notification, plays a sound, and then your player gets one of these really interesting standard plaques. So they can then commemorate their achievement. They can place these in their home. You can set it up anywhere in the space, and they can be found in the home inventory under the achievements section. So through this process, we knew that achievements are a super fun way to re-engage and retain your player base. You want to keep them motivated, you want to keep them excited. So we thought, why not give you, the developer, the ability to really make your game shine? So with our custom item system, you will have the ability to distribute fun objects from your game directly to your players. And we're starting with achievements. You can upload GLB models to reward your users with all kinds of objects, sculptures, trophies, pretty much everything in between. What you see here are some of the objects that Hidden Path, the team behind Brass Tactics, has put together. All of your objects, they can be animated, they can have all kinds of different textures. And the really neat thing about this is we're actually using the same system that is also used to import user-generated items. What that means for you is you can actually go ahead, import objects, test them right in your own home today, and then see what they look like before you actually roll it out to your user base. So in addition, GLB models are also supported by the Facebook 3D and feed system. What that means is that it kind of does some neat double duty for you. So you can also use these objects as a marketing tool, push them as 3D objects onto the Facebook newsfeed. These custom achievement rewards are rolling out today with 8 different announced partners, including Brass Tactics, Superhot, Orbis VR, Arizona Sunshine, Echo Arena, Job Simulator, Lone Echo, and Moss. So you can check out these 31 objects they've put together by earning achievements in any of these games. You'll see posters, airships, dragons, coffee mugs, zombie heads, if you're into that. All the things that you love about these games are now coming to life right in your own home. So when we set about building all of this, we didn't want it to just be some kind of one-off feature. We actually wanted to create a really flexible system for you to use and to grant rewards and to continue to engage with your users. So coming soon, you'll be able to grant rewards for more than achievements. You'll be able to give them out as pre-order bonuses or as specific purchase incentives. Or maybe you're hosting an event or a tournament, you can actually reward attendees and participants with a memento from the game. So all of this will be super easily managed through the Oculus developer dashboard, and Lizzy will share a little bit more on that later in the talk. And one more fun thing. So soon, you'll be able to make and design developer assets for people's avatars. That means you could create jerseys for an upcoming esports tournament your game is a part of, or you could create some awesome themed armor or accessories from your game. I know personally my VR wardrobe is getting super dusty, so I'm really excited about dressing up in all the different things you guys come up with. So what's cool about all of this, plus the custom item system we put together, is that you'll actually be able to give out these custom avatar accessories and clothing through our custom item system. So for example, maybe you would share a new exclusive outfit or accessory when people purchase or when they pre-order your app. And the great thing about this is that avatars actually work beyond your home. So with the Avatars SDK, you can really quickly deploy social presence for your users and provide them with a really comfortable, sort of personal representation of themselves that they can then take across their VR experiences, regardless of what hardware they're using. Right now, developer items for avatars are in closed beta, but everybody who attended OC5 will unlock this limited edition Oculus Avatar asset, which gives you a bit of a taste of what's to come. And beyond what we're doing for customization, we're also really excited about building out home as a social space where people can hang out, talk to their friends, get together. We launched multiplayer support in the beta, and we saw some really interesting examples of VR hangouts. So right now in home today, friends can hang out for movie nights, they can watch videos. All you have to do is place an embedded dash panel on a TV object, and you can get right to it. So while we were writing this talk, Brandon, Lizzy, and I decided to take a break. We went to Lizzy's home, and I suggested that we watch the trailer for Stormland, because I worked on that, and I love that trailer. But it was awesome. It was so great to be able to see their gestures, to talk about it, to share inside, behind the scenes things of what happened while we were working on it, and just to be able to be with them in her space, see all the different things she'd put up, the panda object that she'd created herself. And our community has gotten even more creative too. So recently we saw a group of artist friends, they got together, they hosted their own gallery night, which was amazing. They showed off their medium sculptures, they even got dressed up with their avatars and tuxedos and all kinds of outfits. And they even carved out some virtual wine and cheese, which looked pretty delicious. So it's pretty amazing what's going on here, and we're really excited to see how you guys make use of these tools. And especially, we really want to hear your feedback. We're all ears on how to improve the social experiences that home has to offer, and we have so much more in store for all of you. So something we're working on right now is coordinated app launch so that you and a group could jump into an app together. So if you're interested in working with us early, or if you have ideas or feedback, please do get in touch. We're going to put up this email at the end of the talk as well, so that you can be sure to have our info at the end. Now, on top of all of these different product investments, we're also making really continuous updates to the Rift platform software. So you may have heard that we launched a mobile app that you can download on any iOS or Android device. So now, with that Oculus app, people can discover and download your app right from their phone. And my favorite part about this is that you can actually remotely start a download so that when you're on the go, you can look at it, you can browse for titles, download them, buy them, and then once you get home, you can jump right in and start playing when you get back to your PC. We're also enabling deep linking from both the mobile and the PC apps, which means that it's super frictionless for people to jump from mobile app right into the Oculus desktop app and then start playing your game. In addition to all this, one thing you guys might want to consider is taking advantage of events. So if you go to the developer dashboard, you can go and create an event and host a time-specific gathering. So people could attend a viewing party, a social mixer, a game tournament, anything like that. It's just another channel for you to be able to re-engage and retain your users even further. And what's really neat about this is we'll even give you a direct link on oculus.com, and you can take that, promote your event on your social channels, and all kinds of things like that. So now Lizzy from the engineering team is going to take you through what you need to know on implementation so you can get started.
Thank you so much, Nancy. So I'm going to walk you through the best practices for creating an object and adding that object to an achievement. I'm going to get pretty technical. So to start with, I'm going to talk about the objects that you can create. We support GLTF 2.0 binary files, or GLBs. This is a newer 3D object format if you haven't heard of it. And we support a 15 megabyte max file limit. And if this is starting to sound familiar, it may be because you've experimented with importing 3D assets into your home already. We're giving users and developers the same file requirements for these custom assets. We try to stay as close to the GLTF specifications as possible. So if you're wondering if Y is up, it is, or what units we're using, it's meters, you can just look at the GLTF specifications and expect that we'll follow them. I'm going to do a quick rundown of what we support in terms of textures, animations, and renderings, but we are constantly improving, so if you're doing this sometime down in the future, check back at our Developer Center for the latest updates. So textures, we support JPEG and PNG files. The textures need to be 2K by 2K pixels or smaller, and we can only support one set of texture coordinates per mesh. For animations, we support most animation types now. The major exception is morph targets, for now. You can do simple transforms, you can do linear, step, and cubic spline interpolation strategies, and we just launched support for skinned animations. The first animation on the object will begin looping when it's loaded into home, so keep that in mind for your designs. For renderings, we support PBR metallic roughness material, and you can look at the GLTF specifications for exactly how that's implemented. We support normal maps following the OpenGL convention, we support occlusion, and we support emissive textures. We currently scale up emissives 20 times to increase bloom in home, so keep that in mind if when you're testing your objects, your emissive looks blown out. We support alpha blending, and we use a dithered mask technique created by one of the other engineers on our team, which has a very interesting blog post, so you can look that up, by Martin Mittring. And we support both textured and vertex color models. And all of these guidelines are published online, so if you didn't get all of that, don't worry. So I've talked about the requirements for the GLTF, but how do you actually add them into home? And how do you actually get your current models that you already have into GLBs? We are going to publish a guide very soon with tips and tricks that we've learned along the way from converting things from FBX or other file types. Have links to our favorite GLTF viewers and packers, some ideas for how you can get large models down to under 15 megabytes, and other problems we've run into. So once you actually have the GLB, the next step is testing it in home. Because items for users and developers are going to be the same, you can just test it as if it were a custom item in your own home. So you simply add the file to your documents/imports folder, and you can put them all in a top-level folder or subfolders. As long as there's a .glb, we'll be able to extract it. You can then open the import section of your inventory once you get into home, and pull the object into your world. Some things you can consider testing. You might want to look how your object looks under different lighting. The different environments in home have very dramatically different lighting, especially on the balcony, and the inside of home is very different than the balcony as well. You might want to consider how your object is affecting performance within home. You don't want to overload a user's home with really heavy textures or CPU-intensive animations, and people on lower bandwidths will have to download these items. Each item, whenever you go into a new home, will be downloaded and then cached. So keep that in mind when you're deciding how large you want to make your files. Something else you want to look at is scale. If it's a real-life object, how does it compare to your size? Where would you like to see it in home? Would you like to see it on a shelf or a table, on that pedestal, flying outside of the home, over the balcony? So just see how it looks on different surfaces. And if you're using animation, make sure the loop looks smooth, and it takes up a reasonable amount of space if it's moving around. And of course, your model needs to be valid in terms of the GLTF format. So if you run into an error like this one, where you have a red exclamation point in your inventory, you can just point at the object, press Y or B, and bring up this details menu, and it'll give you a hint as to what might be going wrong. So once you have the object, you'll need an achievement to pair it with. I know many of you have already made achievements, but I'm going to review it for anyone who may be unfamiliar or who may need a reminder. You go to the Platform Services section of our Developer Center, and this is under Manage, your app name, and then you'll click on Achievements. You'll be given the option to add a new achievement or edit old ones. So you'll see this form, and you'll add an API name, which is what you'll use on your end to communicate to us about what achievement you're making. You'll add the title, the description, and any localizations that you find you need. And then you'll set the write policy. The write policy can be client authoritative, which means the client has the authority to write progress or unlock the achievement, or server authoritative, which requires server-to-server APIs in order to write progress. This requires a little more work on your end, and we recommend it if you're particularly worried about cheating. So there are 3 different types of achievements you can create: count, simple, or bit field. A simple achievement is when a single event occurs, like defeating a boss or entering a new area. A count achievement is something that you do multiple times, for example, collecting 4 keys or maybe walking a certain number of miles. A bit field is, these are unlocked when a certain number of bits in a bit field are set. For example, if your achievement was to visit 3 continents, it would unlock after the player visits any 3. And now I'm just going to give you a brief preview of the simple API commands you'll need to set up on your end to investigate or to integrate with our achievement system. These commands come packaged with the client software you've already implemented to work with Rift. And for full details, check out the Developer Center. Just search achievements, and it'll bring up a page with in-depth examples to help you get started. So, coming this fall, it will be the ability for you to connect these items to the achievements in the Developer Center. It'll also be under Platform Services on a page called Custom Items. On this custom items page, you'll be able to manage all of the item uploads. You'll simply upload your file, add a name with any localizations for that name you want, and then you'll submit it for review. The review process will just be there to make sure that you meet all of our content guidelines, and that is a second line of defense against any potentially broken items. If you want to add to a pre-existing achievement, you'll just be able to click Edit Achievement, and there'll be a drop-down with any items that you've uploaded. And as Nancy said, we're also planning on giving you the ability to grant these items as pre-order incentives or for attending in-game events, so stay tuned for future announcements. And eventually, you'll also be able to upload avatar items in the same way. So if you missed the talk earlier, you'll be able to find it on YouTube for lots of exciting details about Oculus avatars. So just a quick rundown of what's available now and what's coming soon. You can test and create your GLBs, you can set up your achievements, and once our rollout is complete, you'll be able to see all of the achievement items from our announcement partners. And very soon, you'll be able to connect those items to achievements straight from the developer dashboard, reward items as pre-order bonuses, purchase incentives, or for event participation, and you'll be able to create custom avatar assets. If this talk has gotten you super excited to add items to home, and you don't want to wait for the Developer Center, get in contact. We're working with developers individually to get started. We're really excited to see what you will create.